Dune. It's been a while. After nearly 18 months, StarCraft 2 has a patch. Yes, it's 2022, in case you didn't see the timestamp on this. But the StarCraft 2 5.0.9 PTR patch notes from, yes, that Blizzard Entertainment. We are releasing a balance patch. Now, you got to read this very carefully. I'm going to stress a few points. We're releasing a balance patch which was put together by our very own community. Over the past couple months, we've been working with various members of the community and tournament organizers to create an update for the game. We would like to recognize and acknowledge the members for the upcoming changes. Let me translate a little. This wasn't us. This was the community. Blame the community. You only have yourselves to blame. Don't blame us. We're actually doing something. It's pretty great, but it's if you don't like it, it's not our fault. Also, full disclosure, I was not part of the direct part of this. I imagine, as Harstom has mentioned, it is mostly pros with a few tournament organizers, but I did mention with my proposed balance patch, which you're going to see some similarities here because there's kind of a consensus, a kind of a consensus between tournament organizers and pro players. And this patch is very much getting 9 out of 10 pro players to agree, which is insanely hard when you realize that each pro player's livelihood depends on the success in the game. But at the same time, their livelihood depends on people interested in watching. So while all players want to win and they want their race to be good, at the same time, they want people to want to watch and play the game. So those conflicting interests come together and give us our first patch. It's not much, but to hear it told by those with more info, it's hopefully and probably not the last, as there is now the format in place for community members, pro players, to have some feedback. And hopefully, I'd hope on like a season basis. But let us optimistically look forward to what is, in my opinion, a good patch. Just so you know what to think beforehand after smashing the like button. But let's go to the details. I'm going to go over the whole thing, and then we're going to go over the implications. Yes. Here are your changes. Shield battery. Starting energy reduced from 100 to 50 outside of the Nexus field. So proxy void rays, stuff like that. Dark Templar have an attack delay after blink. Void ray build time increase and mineral cost increase. Queens can no longer transfuse off a creep. Whittle mines and lurkers burrow slower after they get the burrow faster upgrade. So the upgrade planned obsolescence there. And the Nydus Worm increases the creep around it. Okay. Nope, that's it. Like I said, this is the... my imagination is there were dozens more proposed changes for dozens more things, from anything from ghost, carriers. But this is literally, let's get something out there. Almost everyone can agree on this. It's not necessarily going to change the win rates or even the later game meta. But let's be honest, I think you at the lower levels and pros at the higher ones are kind of sick of seeing the specific implications of many of these things over the last year and a half. And these are a lot of steps in the right direction. Except for queens, who have to stay right where they are. I'm going to start with the big one. Queens can no longer transfuse off a creep. This, literally you take one toe off a creep. No more transfuse. Queen walks, queen crawls, especially at the higher level, are now significantly, if not removed, significantly nerfed. They require a lot more setup. Yes, you can bring overlords. And the Nydus change is explicitly so you can transfuse when you pop out of the Nydus. So the Nydus remains an option, but a big investment compared to just building queens and walking across, because that has been much of the last several years. So, on top of that, though, the Void Ray, in general, proxy Void Ray, as well as Void Rays as part of a unit composition in every matchup, between the shield battery starting at 50 energy. So that means shield batteries you build outside your opponent's base, whether it's for proxy Void Rays or cannons, as well as the Void Ray taking more time to build and minerals. This is explicitly targeting proxy Void Ray rushes and the feeling that you really have no way to damage a Protoss because they already have enough Void Rays to defend in Protoss versus Zerg, or even occasionally Protoss versus Protoss. So this is obviously targeting the Queen Walks. It doesn't really do much to change the later game. Carriers, Templar, Vipers, Queens. Usually when the carriers are fighting, there's creep underneath, stuff like that. The only changes there are the Lurker burrow time being slightly nerfed. So just these units. Honestly, Widow Mines and Lurkers, especially Lurkers burrowing that quickly, has always felt like less than ideal. It feels a little awkward for Lurkers to just dunk their heads in the sand and essentially start hitting you before you even realize what happened. So I definitely agree with these changes. In fact, this is on the short list of things proposed by, I think, everyone. Thus, I said, like, the consensus patch. Now, so let's go matchup by matchup, non-mirror matchups. Zerg versus Protoss. Queen Walks, nerfed. Void Rays, nerfed. The later game, probably going to be similar, but Ground Toss has more options. One, with the reduced effectiveness of Queens. Two, with Void Rays being nerfed means that ground openers are more attractive in general. And three, with Lurkers, having a later game nerf means that it's harder for Zerg to just shut down Ground Toss armies. So part of the reason you would see Sky Toss so much is just, maybe it's not that you can't deal with Lurkers, but going straight to Sky Toss kind of avoided the problem in the first place. As for Zergs, this is overall, I think, it's a mixed bag. Obviously, the Queen not being able to transfuse is a significant deal. But at the same time, Void Rays, I would have liked to see, personally, instead of a mineral nerf, a speed nerf, because I think a lot of the issue does come from the fact that Void Rays can kind of get around and make it very hard to have everything in position at one time. But that's not an issue for Cyril. That's an issue for me and everyone else mostly. So I think most of these changes are targeted to make playing Grandmaster and high-level games less stale. And with that, I will bring it to Protoss versus Terran for a moment. With the Shield Battery, Dark Templar, and Void Ray all nerfs, making Proxy Void Ray generally worse, to the point of being much easier to counter. Because remember, there's no Nexus with a Proxy Void Ray build. DTs blinking onto planetaries and armies in the late game has been the late game choice. Honestly, yes, these are all things that remove a lot of the options from Protoss that are particularly hard to deal with, and that take a lot less from the Protoss to do than for the Terran or Zerg to counter. But that will bring up the overarching point of the patch we're slowly getting to. The last thing are Widow Mines and Lurkers in TVZ. Widow Mines with Drilling Claws, so late game Widow Mines, essentially burrowing in mineral lines and killing usually drones, sometimes probes, rarely SCVs. But those Widow Mines insta-burrowing, killing a dozen drones, that's not necessarily a thing of the past, but you have a little bit more time to deal with it. As well as the Lurker burrowing slower. So overall, I like all the changes. All good changes. Going to make everything, especially through essentially up to 180 supply. This is great. All of these, you can definitely see how this is like, everyone agrees that these things are annoying. That's my assessment of it. And I hope the discussions continue. And I would like to contribute, though I would have probably agreed with all these things and more. So, let's just assume this is the first of hopefully a semi-regular set of patches. Why? Because you know what the next thing that should be on the chopping block? I'm going to say it. It's the Ghost. All right? The Ghost currently counters everything. It doesn't for you because you suck and I suck at this game. But right now, in late game Terran versus everything, besides maybe Terran, though even sometimes against Terran, the Ghost counters everything. And with DTs being nerfed, with Lurkers being nerfed, with Queens being nerfed, which is not a huge factor, the Ghost is going to be an even more incredibly effective and cost-effective tool dominating the late game against Zerg, and it's not going to get any worse against Protoss. The point is, though, we will get to that late game more often and with less... I'm going to use a technical term, and if you're of a younger, more tender age, which, let's be honest here, I know my demographic, but less early game fuckery. And that's what most of this patch is, and I look forward to that. But I do hope we continue maybe a little further into the game going forward. So overall, like, it's happening. By the way, let's go back to, it's happening. It's happening. This is an official patch. I mean, it's a community patch. They make it very clear. Community, community, community. It's not us at Blizzard. We just pressed the button. We changed a few numbers after probably thousands upon thousands of proposals and arguments and counter-arguments and general uncomfortable name-calling and all that. This is the consensus, and I agree with all of it. And I hope to see more. So these are, I imagine, at the start of the next season, which is April 1st, which I guess we're in season. Hopefully this is not an April Fool's joke, but instead is a sign of good things to come, which is aka anything, because that question was very much in the air until now. But here you go. The first patch for StarCraft 2 in 2022. May it not be the last, and may it make your games a little bit better. It gets a thumbs up from me, and I'm looking forward to more. See you soon. Thank you for watching. Good luck. Have fun. All that. Argue in the comments. Who's the real winner here? Is it everyone who wants to try to play ladder? Is it Terrans? Is it never Terrans? Because Terrans are always the ones who have the short end of the stick, no matter what kind of stick there is. Even if the Zerg and the Protoss get their sticks removed, somehow the Terrans have the short end. Or what is it? I'm sure you have opinions. Feel free to share. Thank you for watching. Good luck. Have fun. Smash like.